The neon glow of Nova Terra's skyline pulsed through the rain-slicked windows of the hovercab, casting fractured light across Elias Varn's face as he tugged at his collar for the fifth time. His best friend Kyle Rin had orchestrated this a blind date at the Stellar Atrium, the most exclusive rooftop haven in the city. Elias caught his reflection in his phone's screen, raking a hand through his tousled brown hair. "This better not be another one of your stunts, Kale," he muttered, haunted by the memory of a date that turned out to be Kale's cousin pitching insurance. The hovercab glided down onto the landing pad with a whisper of anti-grav tech. Elias stepped into the humid night, the sprawling metropolis of Nova Terra, shimmering below like a galaxy bound to Earth. The stellar atrium crowned the 200th floor of the Zenith Spire, its transparent aluminum walls framing a breathtaking 360-degree vista of the planet's largest urban sprawl. As the elevator surged upward, Elias's stomach churned with nerves. Blind dates weren't his forte, hell, regular dates were a stretch. 3 years as a systems analyst for a mind-numbingly dull tech firm hadn't exactly polished his charm. The doors parted with a melodic chime revealing the stellar atrium's opulent heart. Crystal chandeliers hovered weightlessly, scattering prismatic light across tables carved from slabs of starlit quartz. A holographic maitre d' materialized its form, shimmering like liquid code. "Mr. Varn, your party awaits at table 7, it intoned. Elias followed, weaving through dining pods cloaked in privacy fields that rippled like iridescent bubbles. His palms grew clammy. Why had he agreed to this? Then he reached table 7 and his mind went blank. 7 women sat around a circular obsidian table, each radiating an otherworldly allure that stopped Elias cold. At the head sat a figure in a military uniform that defied earthly design, its fabric shifting between deep amethyst and void black, adorned with metals that pulsed with inner fire. Her silver hair was bound in a severe bun, accentuating pointed ears in features both hauntingly beautiful and unmistakably alien. Her eyes, molten gold, locked onto him with the intensity of a hawk sizing up its prey. The 6 women flanking her shared her ethereal grace, yet each was distinct. One with skin that shimmered like opalescent seashells, another with hair flowing like molten mercury, catching the light in mesmerizing waves. They wore form-fitting suits in every hue of the spectrum, each tailored to accentuate their unearthly beauty. Elias stood rooted, jaw slack. "You must be Elias Varn." The woman at the head said, her voice a blend of melody and authority laced with an accent that danced beyond human origin. "I am General Kalia Vera of the Andromedan Vanguard. These are my daughters." "Your daughters?" Elias's voice cracked, betraying his nerves. The youngest, her violet eyes sparkling with mischief, let out a playful giggle. "Don't look so spooked, Earth boy. We don't bite," she flashed a grin, revealing teeth just a touch too sharp. "Much." "Enough," Zarin Kalia said, her gaze never leaving Elias. "Please take a seat." Elias stumbled into the chair, his thoughts a chaotic swirl. "I'm sorry, there's got to be a mix-up. Cal said this was just a blind date. He didn't mention," he gestured vaguely at the table, "aliens, galactic citizens." The daughter with mercury hair corrected her tone, sharp with mock offense. "How quaintly provincial." "Lysara, mind your manners." Kalia chided, her expression softening just a fraction as she turned to Elias. "Your friend was adamant you were the right man for this arrangement." "Arrangement?" Elias let out a nervous laugh. "Look, this has to be some cosmic prank. Any second, Kale's gonna pop out with a hollow crew yelling, 'Surprise human goes on blind date with alien general and her 6 daughters.'" The daughter with opalescent skin, her voice lilting like a song, chimed in as if narrating a vid. Classic Earth male response to the unexpected. "No vexes, please," Kalia sighed, leaning forward. Elias caught a trace of her scent ozone and something deeper, like the essence of a star's core. "Mr. Varn, this is no jest. Your planet's integration into the interstellar Concord is underway. This dinner is a step in that delicate process." A holographic waiter flickered into existence beside them. "Drinks for the table, Andromedan brandy," Kalia ordered smoothly. "And something stronger for Mr. Varn. He looks like he's seen a void ghost." "I'm fine," Elias croaked, his trembling hands betraying him as he reached for his water glass. "So you're really all from another planet?" he asked, voice unsteady. "Planets plural," corrected the daughter with skin that seemed to hold constellations beneath its surface. "I'm Astera, born on Kephira 9. Entirely different atmosphere from Mother's world. Where adopted added another her neck, adorned with bioluminescent markings that pulse softly. I'm Oralis, a pleasure to meet a human up close. Your species is charmingly simple. Oralis Kalia's tone carried a warning. Elias gulped his water. Okay, let's say this isn't a prank. Why am I here? Why would a galactic general want dinner with a random systems analyst from Earth Zarin? The youngest leaned forward, her violet eyes glinting with delight. Oh, he doesn't know. This is too good. Know what Elias asked, instantly regretting it? Kalia's expression remained a mask of calm. Your planet must observe certain diplomatic protocols. Your friend Kael, employed by Earth's Xenological Department, deemed you a suitable candidate for this mission. Mission? What mission? I fix computers for a living, the final daughter silent, until now spoke in a voice like velvet over a blade. You're to marry our mother, of course. Her eyes were pure black, no whites visible. I'm Veka, by the way, the practical one. Elias's glass slipped shattering on the floor with a sound swallowed by the privacy field. Mary. His voice hit a pitch he hadn't reached since puberty. Kalia arched an elegant eyebrow. A political arrangement, nothing more. Earth needs allies as it steps onto the galactic stage. My rank in the Andromedan Vanguard makes me a strategic asset. The marriage is purely ceremonial. Though the honeymoon might be open to negotiation, Zarin added with a wink that set Elias's cheeks ablaze. Zarin, her sisters, chorused in exasperation. Elias shot to his feet, toppling his chair. This is insane. I don't care if you're from another galaxy or if Kael's secretly a spy. I'm not marrying someone I just met, especially not someone with 6 daughters who could probably snap me like a twig. Kalia remained seated, her golden eyes pinning him in place. Sit down, Mr. Varn. Her tone was a command wrapped in silk, and Elias's knees buckled as he fumbled for his chair. Oralis giggled. Mother used her command voice. That's cheating. Nothing about this is fair, Kalia countered, gesturing to the waiter, who seamlessly repaired the glass and refilled it. Mr. Varn deserves the truth. This isn't solely about alliances. Forces in the galaxy would see Earth subjugated or annihilated before it joins the Concord. Her voice lowered heavy with implication. My position offers protection, but it demands legitimacy. Like a husband, Lasara added with a helpful nod. Elias's head spun. Why me? There are billions of people on Earth. Why not someone important, someone ready for this? Because you're a nobody, Veka said bluntly. No offense. Plenty taken, Elias muttered. Kalia silenced her daughter with a glance. What Veka means is you lack political ties or conflicting loyalties. You're capable, your work in quantum algorithms caught our eye, but unassuming enough to avoid unwanted attention. You've been watching me for 3 Earth months, Kalia confirmed. Your genetic profile is compatible, your record clean, and our assessments suggest you're adaptable enough for the transition. Transition to what? Before she could answer, Kalia's demeanor shifted. Her hand touched her ear where an invisible comm device hummed. Her eyes narrowed, and she spoke in a language like crystalline chimes played in reverse. What's wrong? Astera asked, her star-freckled skin pulsing with worry. Kalia rose in a single fluid motion. Proximity alert. 3 ships just emerged from hyperspace near Earth's moon. Her gaze locked on Elias, chilling him to the core. Our enemies know of this meeting. Enemies? Elias's voice was a squeak. An explosion shook the zenith spire, the lights flickering as floating chandeliers crashed to the floor. Through the transparent walls, Elias glimpsed angular, predatory ships slicing through the clouds, their forms painful to behold. Time to move, Kalia declared, conjuring a weapon that looked like a fusion of rifle and tuning fork. Her daughters snapped into formation, each drawing similar arms from what Elias swore were evening purses. Go where he demanded, survival instincts finally kicking in. With us, obviously, Zarin said, her grip like iron on his arm. Unless you'd rather chat with the Vorath Nexus about why you're dining with their public enemy number 3. Public enemy number 3. Mothers killed a lot of Vorath, Novexus said with a cheerful grin as the window behind them shattered inward. Kalia spun her weapon, unleashing a beam of twisted light that struck a creature clawing through the breach. It resembled a spider forged from shattered glass and nightmare, shrieking as it dissolved into ash. Move, she commanded. They ran. Elias swept along by 7 galactic women who moved with the precision of a military unit, despite their elegant attire. They wove through panicking diners, dodging energy blasts that scorched smoking craters into the walls. "I just wanted dinner," Elias shouted as they burst through an emergency exit. Maybe some awkward small talk, not an alien invasion. "Technically, you're the alien here," Oralis pointed out, yanking him behind cover as a blast seared the air where his head had been. Kalia tapped her wrist, and the space before them shimmered a sleek ship materializing from the void. A sleek, predatory ship materialized from the void, its hull gleaming with a menace that screamed extraterrestrial. A ramp unfurled from its underbelly like a tongue of dark steel. Everyone aboard Kalia commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. She turned to Elias, and for a fleeting moment, her golden eyes flickered with something like compassion. "I'm sorry, Mr. Varn. This evening has veered far from the plan." "You think?" Elias snapped as another explosion rocked the zenith spire closer now. Through the shattered windows, grotesque creatures swarmed, limbed monstrosities with teeth sprouting from unnatural places. Kalia's tone remained steady, as if they were still sipping brandy at the stellar atrium. "The offer stands. Come with us, and I'll keep you safe. Stay, and the Vorath Nexus will rip every secret of Earth's defenses from your mind before liquefying your organs." "They'll what now?" Elias's voice cracked with dread. Lasara seized one of his arms, Zarin the other, their grips unyielding. "Time for an executive decision, Earthboy," Zarin said, with a grin that was half tease, half threat. They hauled him up the ramp, and as the ship's doors sealed, Elias caught a final glimpse of Nova Terra's skyline ablaze with alien fire, the city's glow swallowed by destruction. Inside, the astral elegy thrummed with barely restrained power, its interior a symphony of sleek curves and pulsating light. The daughters dispersed to their stations, their evening gowns shimmering into combat suits, with a mere thought fabric flowing like liquid metal. Kalia claimed the pilot's seat, her hands dancing across controls that seemed more sculpted art than technology. "Strap in," she ordered. Elias fumbled with the harness of a passenger seat, his fingers clumsy with adrenaline. "Where are we going? Away from here," Kalia replied, initiating launch. The ship ascended with eerie grace, defying the pandemonium outside. "Your old life is over, Mr. Varn. I regret that. But if it's any consolation," she added, her voice softening, "your new one will be far more extraordinary." "I don't want extraordinary," Elias protested, his voice tinged with desperation. "I want my boring apartment, my cat, my normal human life." "Should we tell him about Starpaws?" Novexus whispered to Astera, a mischievous glint in her eye. "Tell me, what about Starpaws?" Elias demanded. Heart-lurching. "Your cat's fine," Kalia said, executing a maneuver that sent Elias's stomach into his throat. "We moved him to a safe house 3 days ago. He's dining on premium tuna." "You kidnapped my cat," rescued Veka corrected sharply. "The Vorath would have used him as leverage." Through the view screen, Elias watched Earth dwindle to a fragile blue marble against the infinite black. The weight of his unraveling reality crashed over him. "I think I'm going to pass out," he announced, voice faint. "Totally normal," Zarin assured him, her tone almost cheerful. "Most species lose it on their first hyperspace jump." Their first, what Kalia's hands wove over the controls, and space itself began to warp reality, folding like starlit origami. "Welcome to the galaxy, Mr. Varn," she said, as they plunged into a cosmic maelstrom, light and shadow twisting in impossible ways. "Try not to scream," Elias screamed anyway. He awoke to his heartbeat pounding like a war drum in his ears. For a disorienting moment, he couldn't place himself. Then it all flooded back, alien dinner explosions, hyperspace. He bolted upright, instantly regretting it, as his head spun like a malfunctioning gyro. "Easy, Earth boy," Zarin's voice came from his left, laced with her signature mischief. "First jump's a gut punch. Your species isn't built for dimensional folding." Elias blinked, vision clearing. He lay on a surface that felt like a bed but looked like a cloud of frozen light, softly radiant. The room around him was a study in fluid design, its walls pulsing faintly as if alive. Through a viewport, unfamiliar stars glittered in constellations that defied Earth's skies. "Where are we, medical bay of the astral elegy?" Zarin replied, perched on a hovering chair, her combat suit clinging to every curve like a second skin. "Mother's flagship. You've been out for 6 hours. 6 hours," Elias swung his legs off the bed cloud, fighting dizziness. "We have to go back. Earth's under attack. Earth is fine." Kalia's voice cut through, sharp and authoritative. She stood in the doorway now, clad in a functional Andromedan uniform that somehow amplified her intimidating presence. The Vorath raid was precise, aimed at capturing you, not invasion. Your planet's defense grid held. Defense grid? Elias blinked. Since when does Earth have a defense grid? Kalia glided into the room with the effortless grace her daughter shared. Since about 5 years ago, your governments have been preparing for first contact longer than you'd think. And no one told us. Would your people have handled it well? She asked, one silver eyebrow arching. Your history says otherwise. Elias couldn't argue that. He glanced down, realizing he was in a sleek black jumpsuit mirroring the crew's attire. Who changed me? Medical drones, Zarin said with a theatrical sigh. Mother wouldn't let us have any fun. Heat crept up Elias's neck. That's probably for the best. Kalia approached, holding a small serpentine device that gleamed like liquid silver. Mr. Varn, we need to discuss your situation. The Vorath know you now. Returning to Earth would endanger you and everyone you know. So I'm stuck here for now. She extended the device. This neural interface will help you navigate what you've been thrust into. Elias eyed it warily, its form coiling like a living thing. What does it do? It uploads essential knowledge directly to your cortex languages, cultural protocols, galactic history, tools for survival. Is it safe? Mostly, Zarin chirped, grinning. Zarin Kalia warned her focus on Elias, unwavering. Mild discomfort, no lasting harm. The alternative is months of study we can't afford. Elias took the device, surprised by its warmth. Why the rush? Because in roughly 72 hours you must convince the interstellar Concord our marriage is genuine. The device slipped from his fingers. Kalia caught it without glancing down. The political arrangement I mentioned. It's been registered with the Concord as of 3 hours ago. You got us engaged while I was out. Engaged, she corrected, her tone calm but firm. The ceremony is in 3 days if we survive that long. Elias's head spun, and he hadn't even touched the neural interface yet. This is madness, he said, voice rising. You can't just declare someone engaged. There are laws, consent, basic human rights, all of which apply on Earth. Kalia said coolly. You're not on Earth anymore. Mother, you're scaring him. Oralis called from the doorway, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with concern. Maybe try a softer touch. I don't do soft, Kalia replied, though her jaw tightened. Fine. Elias, please understand this isn't what I wanted either. Marriage, Ishal. It's not something I plan to revisit, but the Vorath Nexus is pushing to exclude Earth from the Concord Accord. They want your planet's resources, and they'll take them by force if Earth lacks protection. And marrying you stops them. My rank binds any world I'm legally tied to under Andromedan defense protocols. For a moment, vulnerability flickered in her golden eyes. It's not perfect, but it's the best we have. What about your daughters? Don't they get a say in their mother marrying some random human? Oh, we have plenty to say, Astera said, stepping beside Oralis, her star-freckled skin dimming slightly. But Mother's right. The Vorath are bad news. They killed our fathers, Lysara added softly from another doorway. All of them at different times. That's why we're adopted. Mother took us in after the Vorath left us orphaned. Silence fell heavy and solemn. Elias looked at Kalia, seeing her anew not just a general, but a protector carrying unimaginable loss. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Don't be, Kalia replied, her mask of control snapping back into place. It was long ago. Now, are you ready for the interface? Elias picked up the device again, its warmth unsettling. Will it hurt like a hangover laced with quantum equations? Novexus offered with a grin. Wonderful. He pressed the serpent to his temple. It adhered with a soft hiss, and then knowledge surged through him like a tidal wave. Alien languages bloomed in his mind, as familiar as English. The astral elegies layout mapped itself in his consciousness like a childhood home. Names and faces of 1,000 species filed into his memory alongside cultural taboos, and the precise way to greet a Zentaran ambassador without sparking a diplomatic incident. The flood of data overwhelmed him, revealing the galaxy's vast, perilous scope. Holy shit, Elias gasped, doubling over as the torrent ceased. Language, Kalia said reflexively. Young ears are present. I'm 67 in Earth years, Zarin protested. Still the baby, her sisters chorused their voices, a playful harmony. Elias straightened his mind, reeling under the weight of new knowledge. The Vorath, they're not just raiders, They're a hive mind. Billions of consciousnesses linked, seeing individuality as a disease. Now you see, Kalia said, her tone grim. They've consumed 16 worlds in the last century. Earth would be the 17th. And politics is all that's stopping them. Politics backed by very big guns, Veka corrected, striding into the medical bay with a precision that screamed military discipline, a stark contrast to her sister's more relaxed demeanors. Speaking of which, Mother, we've got trouble. Kalia's expression remained a mask of calm, but Elias caught the subtle shift of her hand to her weapon, a reflex honed by decades of war. Report, long-range sensors detected a Varath Nexus dreadnought. Veka said, her voice clipped. It's tailing us just beyond intercept range. They're tracking us, Kalia concluded, her golden eyes narrowing. How? All eyes turned to Elias, who felt his stomach lurch. Me, he squeaked, voice betraying his panic. How could they track me? Kalia stepped closer, producing a sleek scanner that hummed with alien tech. She swept it over him, pausing at his left shoulder. Her face hardened. Microtransmitter. Subcutaneous. Planted during the restaurant attack. They put something under my skin. Elias's voice rose. Get it out. Can't, Kalia said flatly. It's bio-locked. Removal would kill you. Of course it would, Elias muttered, slumping against the bed cloud. Because this day wasn't already a galactic dumpster fire. We could go dark, Veka suggested, her tone measured. Hide in the Magellan cloud until no Kalia cut her off. They'd anticipate that. We proceed to Pax Harmonia as planned. Mother, that's suicide, Lysara protested, her mercury hair glinting with agitation. One dreadnought against the astral elegy. Which is why we're not fighting, Kalia said, turning to Elias with a glint in her eye that made his blood run cold. How do you feel about learning combat basics? Combat? Elias's voice cracked like a teenager's. I told you I fixed computers. The most violent thing I've done is rage quit a video game. Video games, Astera mused, her star-freckled skin shimmering faintly. Those Earth battle simulations you play for fun. Some of them, yeah, Elias admitted. Perfect, Kalia said, a faint smirk tugging at her lips. The principles aren't so different. Zarin, take him to training, Deck 4. Teach him weapons and defensive basics. Why do I need to fight if we're not fighting? Elias asked, bewildered. Kalia was already heading for the door. Because we're boarding them first, Elias stared after her jaw slack. I'm sorry we're doing what? Boarding the dreadnought, Novexus, chirped her sing-song voice, unnervingly cheerful. Sneak in, disable their tracking systems, maybe blow some stuff up. Standard Tuesday. It's Thursday, Oralis corrected, her bioluminescent markings pulsing. Space Thursday or Earth Thursday. Does it matter? Elias threw up his hands. Hold on. You want me, a systems analyst who just learned aliens exist, to help board a ship full of hostile, hive mind monsters? Not help, Kalia said from the doorway, her tone unrelenting. Lead, you're the one they're tracking. Where you go, they follow. We need that predictability. She paused, her gaze softening slightly. Besides, you said you fix computers. The Vorath use a crystalline matrix for navigation. Can you break it? Despite the terror clawing at his chest, Elias felt a spark of professional curiosity ignite. Crystalline matrix, like quantum lattice structures, similar but laced with organic components. That's actually fascinating, he admitted, then caught himself. No? Wait, still terrifying, mostly terrifying. Training Deck 4, Kalia commanded. 1 hour. We'll drop out of hyperspace near a nebula to mask our approach. She turned to her daughters, her voice steel. Full combat load. This is a live operation. The sisters dispersed with military precision, leaving Elias alone with Zarin. So she said, flashing a grin that revealed her 2 sharp teeth, ready to learn how not to die. Do I have a choice? Nope. She grabbed his arm, her grip firm but playful. Come on, Earth boy. Time to see what you're made of. The training deck was a cavernous marvel, its surfaces reshaping at will. Zarin tapped a control panel and the floor softened into a spongy texture as walls rose to form a dynamic obstacle course. First lesson, she announced, tossing him a weapon that resembled a crystalline water pistol, its surface pulsing faintly. Point and shoot. That's it. Well, also try not to shoot yourself or me. Especially me. She brandished her own weapon, a sleek plasma caster. Low setting won't kill, but it'll sting like hell. Ready? No. She fired. Elias yelped, diving behind a barrier as a bolt of purple energy sizzled past his head, singeing the air. Lesson 2. Zarin called, her voice brimming with glee. I lied about the low setting. For the next hour, Elias stumbled, rolled, and scrambled through grueling scenarios, each more punishing than the last. Zarin was a relentless instructor, her sharp commands tempered by an infectious enthusiasm. By the end, Elias could hit moving targets barely and had developed a healthy paranoia for checking corners. Not bad, Zarin conceded during a water break, her violet eyes appraising him. You'll probably still die, but you might take a few of them with you. Comforting, Elias said, wiping sweat from his brow. Can I ask you something, Shoot? Why are you all so okay with this? Your mother marrying a stranger? Zarin's playful demeanor dimmed her gaze, growing distant. You know about our fathers, what the Vorath did. Yeah, Elias said softly. Mother saved us. Zarin continued, her voice quiet but fierce. Each of us from worlds the Vorath obliterated. She didn't have to. An Andromedan general adopting war orphans from lesser species. It was a scandal. She shrugged, but her eyes betrayed a deep loyalty. She raised us, trained us, loved us in her own way. So if she says marrying you keeps Earth safe, keeps other kids from losing everything, we trust her. Even if she's marrying someone she doesn't love. Love, Zarin's laugh was tinged with sadness. Earthboy love is a luxury in war. But who says she doesn't? Before Elias could process her words, alarms blared through the astral elegy. Battle stations. Kalia's voice echoed, dropping out of hyperspace in T-minus 5 minutes. Showtime, Zarin said, her combat persona snapping into place like a switch. Let's get you suited up. The armory was a whirlwind of controlled chaos, a symphony of clinking weapons and whirring tech. Each sister moved with purpose, checking plasma casters and adjusting armor that flowed like liquid metal, adapting to their forms. Kalia stood at the center, orchestrating with crisp efficiency. Elias, she called, gesturing to a wall that parted to reveal a suit tailored for him, its design echoing the sisters but subtly unique. He stepped forward, and the armor enveloped him like living mercury, molding to his body with a faint hum. Reactive armor, Kalia explained. It'll stop most energy weapons and adapt to kinetic impacts. Try not to test its limits. Wasn't planning to, Elias muttered. Plans change. She handed him a plasma caster and a device that looked like a smartphone fused with a spider, its legs twitching faintly. Hacking module, she said, pre-programmed with Vorath security protocols. Get it to their navigation core. Just that easy, huh? Elias quipped, voice dripping with sarcasm. Kalia stepped closer, her voice low and steady. I know this isn't what you signed up for, but my daughters trust you. So do I. How do you know? Because you're here, she said, her golden eyes searching his. You could have refused. The neural interface demanded we take you back to Earth despite the risk. But you didn't. Why? Elias hesitated, grappling with the question. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe because, for once, what I do matters. Or maybe I'm just too terrified to think straight. Fear keeps you alive, Kalia said, a rare warmth in her tone. Use it. Dropping out of hyperspace, Veka announced from her station. Reality twisted the viewports, revealing a monstrous ship that loomed like a cathedral forged from knives and shadow. The Vorath dreadnought dwarfed the astral elegy, its hull crawling with weapon emplacements that pulsed with malevolent intent. They haven't spotted us yet, Lysara reported from sensors. Nebula interference is cloaking our signature. Launch positions, Kalia commanded. We're not here to fight. Get and disable their tracking. Get out. Elias stays with me at all times. I get a babysitter. Elias tried to joke, his voice shaky. You get the most dangerous woman in 3 galaxies watching your back. Novexus corrected with a grin. Try to keep up. They moved to the launch bay where a stealth shuttle waited, its sleek form nearly invisible against the void. As they boarded, Elias caught Kalia checking her weapon with a practiced flick. Nervous, he asked. Always, she admitted, her voice low. Overconfidence kills more soldiers than enemy fire. Not exactly reassuring. It wasn't meant to be. She took the pilot's seat. Strap in. Stealth approach means no inertial dampeners. The shuttle launched with ghostly silence, gliding through space like a specter. The dreadnought grew larger, its twisted architecture revealing itself as something not built, but grown as if birthed from nightmares in the abyss. Docking in 30 seconds, Kalia announced. Weapons hot. Expect resistance immediately. Define resistance, Elias said, gripping his plasma caster. Everything on that ship trying to kill us, Kalia replied. Oh, good, Elias muttered, was worried it might be tricky. Zarin laughed. I like him, Mother. Can we keep him if he survives? He's not a pet, Zarin. Kalia snapped, though Elias caught the faintest upturn of her lips. The shuttle attached to the dreadnought's hull with a soft thunk. Kalia activated the breach cutter, carving an entry in seconds. Go, go, go. They poured into a corridor that looked like the inside of a diseased throat, its walls pulsing with bioluminescent veins that cast an eerie glow. The air reeked of ozone and decay, heavy and oppressive. Navigation core is 3 decks down. Veka reported, her scanner glowing faintly. Multiple life signs converging on us. Then we move fast, Kalia said, taking point, her weapon sweeping the grotesque corridor. Elias, stay close. They advanced with lethal precision, the sisters moving as a single unit, their coordination flawless despite the chaos. Elias struggled to keep up his crash course combat training, feeling woefully inadequate. The first Vorath appeared around a corner, a writhing mass of tentacles and eyes that defied comprehension, their presence a visceral assault on the senses. Kalia's weapon sang, reducing it to smoking gel with a single shot. Contact front, Aurelius called, as more creatures emerged, oozing from the walls themselves. The corridor erupted into chaos energy beams, lancing through the air in deadly arcs. The sisters engaged the Vorath with ruthless efficiency, their plasma casters painting the walls with light and destruction. Elias fired at anything that twitched too much, shocked when his shots actually connected. Push through, Kalia commanded, carving a path with precise, devastating blasts. They fought deeper into the ship, each level more grotesque than the last, the architecture a nightmare of organic decay. Elias tried to ignore the way the floors squished beneath his boots, or how the walls seemed to watch them, their bioluminescent pulses tracking their every move. There, Lysera pointed to a massive door, its surface crawling with writhing luminescent symbols that pulsed like a heartbeat. Navigation core, Veka Novexus. Hold this position, Kalia ordered, her voice cutting through the din of battle. Everyone else inside. They breached the core room, stepping into a nightmare of organic technology. Crystalline structures sprouted from floor to ceiling, their jagged forms throbbing with data streams that resembled infected veins glowing with a sickly light. At the center loomed a console, half machine, half living tissue, its surface quivering as if alive. That's disgusting. Elias observed, his stomach churning at the sight. Less commentary, more hacking. Kalia snapped, taking position at the door, her plasma caster sweeping the corridor for threats. Elias approached the console, pulling out the spider-like hacking module. It sprang to life, skittering onto the organic interface and burrowing in with a soft, wet squelch. Holographic displays erupted around him, projecting code that seared his eyes with its alien complexity. This'll take a few minutes, Elias said, his fingers dancing over interfaces the neural download had barely prepared him for. We don't have minutes, Zarin warned, her voice tense as explosions rumbled from the corridor closer now. Sweat beaded on Elias's forehead as he worked faster, his mind wrestling with the Vorath code, a chaotic blend of programming, viral DNA, and raw, screaming madness. Yet beneath the insanity, he glimpsed patterns, mathematical constants that transcended species, grounding him in something familiar. Got it, he announced as the tracking subroutine revealed itself, a glowing knot of data. I can disable it, but Kalia's voice was sharp, her eyes never leaving the door. It'll trigger a core meltdown. We'll have maybe 5 minutes before the ship blows. Kalia didn't hesitate. Do it. Elias initiated the shutdown, his heart pounding as he pressed the command. Alarms shrieked through the dreadnought, a cacophony of mechanical wails and organic screams that clawed at the senses. Time to go. Kalia grabbed Elias, her grip firm, as the room began to quake. They burst back into the corridor where Veka and Novexus were holding off waves of Vorath, their plasma casters painting the air with deadly light. Ship's going critical, Kalia shouted, fighting retreat to the shuttle. What followed was the longest 5 minutes of Elias's life. The Vorath attacked with desperate fury, their hive mind unity fraying as their ship died around them. The sisters fought with breathtaking skill, moving as a single unbreakable unit, covering each other with precise lethal efficiency. Elias found himself in the heart of their formation, protected, yet not useless, his plasma caster adding bursts of fire to their defense. There, the breach point loomed ahead, a sliver of hope amidst the chaos. They dove through just as an explosion rocked the dreadnought, the shockwave nearly knocking them off their feet. The shuttle detached with a lurch, Kalia pushing the engines to their limits as the massive ship began to tear itself apart behind them. "Hold on," she warned, her hands executing maneuvers that defied the laws of physics. The dreadnought erupted in a silent bloom of light and debris, a cataclysmic flower unfurling in the void. The shock wave hit, sending the shuttle tumbling through space, stars and sisters blurring in a kaleidoscope of chaos. Elias clung to his harness, his world spinning. Then Kalia's deft hands found the right controls, and the shuttle stabilized. "Everyone alive," she called out. "Define alive," Oralis groaned, peeling herself off Astera where she'd been thrown. "Still breathing counts," Lysara said, her voice steady despite the bruises. "Then yes," the sisters chorused. Kalia guided them back to the astral elegy, now positioned at a safe distance. As they docked, Elias realized his hands were trembling, adrenaline still coursing through him. "You did well," Kalia said quietly, her golden eyes meeting his with a rare softness. "I think I'm going to throw up." Elias admitted, his voice shaky. "That's normal too." As they disembarked, the sisters chattered about the mission with the casual ease of people recounting a spirited shopping trip. Kalia pulled Elias aside, her voice low. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what? Not dying, for trusting us, for fighting beside us." She paused, her gaze searching. "For proving my daughter's right about you." Before Elias could respond, she was already striding away, issuing orders for their next hyperspace jump. "Hey, Earth boy," Zarin called, her violet eyes gleaming. "Victory dinner time, real food, none of that fancy atrium stuff." Elias looked at these extraordinary women who just saved his life and whose mother he was apparently marrying in 2 days. His old life felt like a fading dream, a shadow of someone else's existence. "Yeah," he said, surprised by his own conviction. "I'm coming." As he followed them deeper into the astral elegy, his new home, Elias couldn't shake the sense of impending impossibilities. The neutral planet of Pax Harmonia loomed ahead, a radiant jewel wrapped in rings of steel into diplomacy. Its surface was a mosaic of embassy districts from countless worlds, while orbital stations spun like cosmic crowns, hubs of commerce and intrigue. Elias pressed his face to the viewport, still grappling with the surreal beauty before him. "Impressive, right?" Lysara said, joining him, her mercury hair catching the starlight. "They say Pax Harmonia's never taken a side in any conflict. 1,000 years of perfect neutrality." "How's that possible?" Elias asked. Money Veka answered bluntly, her military precision undiminished. "Everyone banks here. Attack Pax Harmonia and every civilization in the galaxy comes for your head." Kalia emerged from her ready room and Elias did a double take. Gone was her battle-worn uniform, replaced by a gown that seemed woven from liquid starlight, its fabric shimmering with an ethereal glow. She looked less like a general and more like a deity of war, testing the waters of diplomacy. "You clean up nice," Elias blurted, then instantly wished he could dive into the nearest airlock. Her golden eyes flicked to him, a faint smirk playing on her lips. "As will you, Elias." Astera appeared holding an outfit that made Elias recoil. "No way, absolutely not. It's traditional Andromedan formal wear." Astera explained, presenting what looked like a hybrid of tuxedo and midnight-hued armor, its edges sharp yet elegant. "It has a cape," Elias protested. "A ceremonial half-cape," Oralis corrected her, bioluminescent markings pulsing with amusement. "Totally different. I'm not wearing a cape to a space UN meeting," Elias insisted. "You will wear it," Kalia said, her tone brooking no argument. "Appearance matters. The interstellar conquered will judge Earth by how you present yourself." 20 minutes later, Elias stood before a mirror, feeling utterly ridiculous. Yet he had to admit the outfit worked. The neural interface whispered that the cut emphasized strength, the deep hues suggesting mystery and depth. The half-cape, despite his protests, added a dramatic flair he secretly liked. "See," Zarin said, adjusting his collar with a grin. "Very distinguished. You almost look like you belong here." "Almost, while you still walk like an Earth human," she teased. "All floppy. Floppy. You know Novexus demonstrated slouching exaggeratedly. Like your bones are still figuring out gravity." The shuttle ride to the Concorde's chambers was a tense affair. Kalia briefed Elias one last time, her voice low and precise, which species to avoid eye contact with, which saw handshakes as death threats and the 17 ways a simple greeting could spark interstellar war. Just follow my lead, she concluded. Speak when spoken to, and don't agree to anything without checking with me first. What if they ask about our relationship? Elias asked, nerves creeping in. Kalia's expression remained steady, but her daughters leaned in, their eyes gleaming with curiosity. Tell the truth, she said, within reason, which is that we met through official channels, that our bond serves both our people's interests, that you've proven yourself worthy through trial by combat. That last part happened, the Varath dreadnought counts, Veka said, her tone matter of fact. You fought with us and survived. That's more than most can claim. The council chambers were a spectacle of controlled chaos, a vast amphitheater teeming with representatives from every major galactic civilization. Elias's neural interface worked overtime, identifying species' crystalline resonance who spoke in harmonic vibrations, gaseous nebula drifters encased in shimmering envirosuits, and hive-minded collectives moving in eerie unison. Then he saw them, the Vorath Nexus delegations, seated beneath banners that stung the eyes with their discordant patterns. They're here, Elias whispered to Kalia. Pax, Harmonia's neutrality is absolute, she replied softly. Even our enemies have a voice here. They took their seats, the daughters arranging themselves in a formation that seemed casual, but left no angle unguarded. Elias sat between Kalia and Zarin, feeling like a lamb among apex predators. The session began, called to order by a being of condensed mathematics, its form shimmering with equations, its voice resonating from nowhere and everywhere. The Interstellar Concord recognizes the union petition between General Kalia Vera of the Andromedan Vanguard and Elias Varn of Earth, it declared. Are there any objections? The Varath Nexus objects came, a chilling chorus, a harmony of voices that crawled under Elias's skin. The Vorath delegates spoke as one, their words weaving a discordant symphony. This union is a blatant attempt to bypass Earth's probationary status. The Andromedan Vanguard acknowledges the concern. Kalia responded with formal precision, but maintains all protocols have been followed. Protocols, the Vorath sneered in unison, their voices like shattering glass. Earth has been in galactic contact for less than one solar rotation. Its representative cannot possibly grasp the implications of this bond. All eyes turned to Elias. Kalia's hand rested lightly on his arm, a silent warning to tread carefully. He stood slowly, his mind racing, the neural downloads knowledge, a lifeline in a game he barely understood. You're right, he said, feeling Kalia tense beside him. I don't fully grasp the implications. Murmurs rippled through the chamber, the Varath delegates leaning forward like predators sensing weakness. Earth is new to this. Elias continued, his voice steadier now. We're like kids taking our first steps into a vast unknown universe. But isn't that exactly why we need allies? Guides to navigate this cosmic maze. General Vayer has already saved Earth from an unprovoked Vorath attack. This union just formalizes a protection we've already seen in action. Protection, the Vorath hissed, their collective voice dripping with disdain. Or a prelude to conquest. The Andromedans seek to expand their influence by manipulating lesser species. Lesser heat rose in Elias's face, his earthborn stubbornness flaring. Because we're younger, because we haven't surrendered to hive mind unity. My people have a saying, diversity is strength. The Vorath delegates huddled, their whispered conference buzzing like a swarm of digital wasps, a chilling cacophony that set Elias's nerves on edge. At last they spoke as one, their voices a discordant harmony. We accept the topic. Elias glanced at Kalia, her expression an unreadable mask of control, though her daughters' faces betrayed a mix of horror and reluctant admiration. Earth's worthiness for protection. Elias declared, his voice steadier than he felt. I'll argue we deserve alliance status. You argue we don't. The winner's position becomes the Interstellar Concord's recommendation. Agreed, the Vorath intoned. Present your opening argument, human. Elias took a deep breath, his heart pounding. 3 years of pitching quarterly reports to boardroom suits had honed his skills, but this was no corporate conference room. Still, a presentation was a presentation. Earth produces what no other world can. He began, his voice carrying across the amphitheater. Our chaotic individuality breeds innovation. In just 5 years since first contact, we've adapted alien tech in ways that stunned even our mentors. He continued, gaining confidence. Our art, our music, our stories. They're spreading across the galaxy, offering perspectives no hive mind could dream up. He drew a small device from his pocket, a gift from Astera. With a tap, music filled the chamber, wild, soulful jazz, its notes dancing in unpredictable freedom. This is Miles Davis kind of blue. Every performance unique, every note a choice born in the moment. When the residents heard Earth jazz, they said it was the first music to make chaos theory feel alive. Irrelevant, the Varath countered, their unified voice dripping with disdain. Art cannot shield against plasma bombardment. Earth's military is primitive, its people fractured. You war among yourselves even as greater threats loom. We're learning, Elias shot back undeterred. Yes, we're messy. Yes, we screw up. But we adapt faster than any species on record. The Vorath attacked Earth once. You failed. Why? Because within hours of first contact, we'd reverse engineered your captured tech and woven it into our defenses. Luck and Andromedan meddling, the Vorath sneered. Strategy and human stubbornness, Elias corrected. Pulling up holographic displays fed by Zarin from her station. Earth's defensive response time 17 minutes from first detection to full planetary shield activation. The galactic average for established civilizations, 23 minutes. We're rookies outpacing veterans because we think differently. Different does not mean better, the Vorath hissed. Doesn't it? Elias turned to the full council, his voice ringing with conviction. How many of you began as hive minds? How many as individuals? The galaxy thrives on diversity. Earth brings something new, a perspective forged by billions of unique minds working toward shared goals without losing their individuality. Chaos, the Vorath spat. Discord, inefficiency, jazz. Elias countered, a grin tugging at his lips. Democracy, innovation born from debate. We don't agree on everything, we can't. But that lets us see problems from angles no unified mind would ever consider. When the Vorath virus hit the Centauri data networks last year, who cracked it? Silence hung heavy. A human teenager in Mumbai, Elias continued, his voice steady. A 16-year-old girl who saw the code as a video game puzzle. She solved it in 6 hours because she didn't know it was supposed to be impossible. One example, the Vorath scoffed. Want more? Elias was in his element now. The adrenaline sharpening his words. The Andromedan Vanguard's new shield harmonics, inspired by Earth music theory. The cure for resonant crystal decay, found by a human doctor who noticed it mimicked an Earth coral disease. We see connections others miss because we're not locked into one way of thinking. Yet you remain violent, irrational, unpredictable. The Vorath pressed. Yes, Elias agreed, surprising the chamber. And that terrifies you, doesn't it? You can predict hive minds model unified civilizations, but you can't predict what 7 billion individuals might do when pushed. He met the Vorath's compound eyes, unflinching. You attacked Earth to stop this union. You exposed your position, lost a dreadnought, and gained nothing. Why? Because you couldn't predict one random human would board your ship, that Kalia's daughters would accept him, that chaos and order could work together. This proves nothing, the Vorath snarled. It proves everything, Elias shot back, feeling Kalia's hand on his arm. Not a warning this time, but a quiet anchor of support. The galaxy faces threats. Pure order or pure chaos, neither is enough anymore. Earth offers synthesis, a bridge between worlds like Andromeda and species you haven't even met. Protect us, and we become the wild card that saves you when predictions fail. And if you fail first, a Vorath delegate challenged. Elias grinned, the same defiant smirk that had carried him through countless impossible deadlines. Then we'll fail in a way no one sees coming. But I don't think we will. Humans do their best work when everyone says we can't. He sat down, adrenaline making his hands tremble, the chamber erupting in a buzz of 100 alien tongues. Compelling arguments from both sides, the mathematical moderator declared after several tense minutes, its form pulsing with calculated light. The interstellar concord will now vote. All in favor of Earth's protected status through the proposed union. Lights flickered across the chamber, green for yes, red for no. Elias watched the tally climb, his heart thundering. It was close, too close for comfort. Final count 347, in favor 298 against 72, abstaining, the moderator announced. The motion passes. Earth's protection under Andromedan treaty law is recognized pending the union ceremony. The Vorath delegates rose as one, their synchronized movements chillingly precise. This is not over, they intoned their voices a venomous chorus. Earth will reveal its true nature soon enough, and the galaxy will heed our warning. They filed out, leaving a frigid silence in their wake. That was reckless, Kalia said once they were gone, her tone sharp but her eyes betraying a flicker of pride. The rite of challenge could have gone very differently. But it didn't, Elias replied, still riding the adrenaline high. We won. You won? Orlis corrected, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with amusement. That was actually impressive. For a human. High praise, Zarin laughed, nudging him. Mother, your future husband's got some bite after all. Kalia stood smoothing her starlight gown with practiced grace. The ceremony's tomorrow. We should... Alarms blared through the chamber, cutting her off. The mathematical moderator pulsed urgently, its voice echoing. Security breach in Section 7. All delegates are advised to evacuate. The lights died, plunging the chamber into darkness. Kalia's voice sliced through cold and commanding. Formation Delta, protect the primary. Before Elias could ask what that meant, the daughters surrounded him, their bodies forming a living shield, each movement precise despite the chaos. Emergency lighting flickered on, revealing pandemonium. A shadow moved through the chamber, bending light around itself like a cloak of void. Assassin drone Veka identified, her voice low and steady. Vorath design, but not Vorath control. Someone else is pulling the strings. The shadow struck a blade of pure darkness, slashing where Kalia had stood moments before. She moved like liquid starlight, drawing a weapon from her gown's hidden folds, its blade gleaming with lethal intent. Get him out, she commanded her daughters. Now, that's an order. The daughters moved as a single lethal unit, half of them engaging the assassin drone, while the others hustled Elias toward an exit. Through flashes of chaos, he caught glimpses of Kalia's battle, her movements fluid and deadly, her weapon carving trails of radiant light through the air. The shadow drone countered with mechanical precision, its dark blade slicing with relentless intent. We can't leave her, Elias protested, his heart hammering. We follow orders, Lysara said grimly, her grip on his arm unyielding as she pulled him along. Mother can handle it. An explosion rocked the chamber, shaking the crystalline walls. When the smoke cleared, Kalia was on one knee, her starlight gown, torn golden blood streaming down her arm, shimmering like liquid fire. Mother Zarin broke formation, charging back, her violet eyes blazing with defiance. The assassin pivoted, its blade rising toward her. Elias didn't think he acted. His plasma caster was in his hand, firing before his mind caught up. The shot struck the drone's core, shattering its light-bending cloak. For a fleeting moment, the assassin was revealed, a grotesque amalgam of blades and sensors wrapped in technology that twisted the eye. Kalia surged forward, her own blade finding the drone's heart. It collapsed in a cascade of sparks and screeching metal, its death throes echoing through the chamber. Secure the area, Kalia ordered, her voice strained but commanding. I want to know who sent this thing. She swayed, her strength faltering. Elias caught her before she fell, stunned by how light she felt despite her formidable presence. Just a scratch, she muttered, her golden eyes flickering. Mother, you're bleeding out, Astera said, her star-freckled skin paling with worry. That blade was vibro-edged. Medical team incoming, someone announced. As the chaos settled, Elias held Kalia, her golden blood staining his ceremonial outfit, its half-cape now smeared with the evidence of battle. She looked up at him, those impossible eyes meeting his. Twice now, she said softly. What? Twice you've saved me. That's going to be a hard one to explain to my command staff. Yeah, well, Elias managed a weak grin, breaking through his nerves. Can't have my fiancé dying before the wedding. People would talk. Kalia laughed, a rare, genuine sound, then winced as the medical team arrived, their instruments humming. Sir, we need to... He stays. Kalia commanded, her voice brooking no argument. My future husband has earned that right. As they worked on her wounds, Novexus leaned close to Elias, her voice a conspiratorial whisper. You realize what you just did, right? You saved the most decorated general in Andromedan history in front of the entire interstellar Concord. Is that good or bad? Elias asked, his mind still reeling. Depends, Zarin chimed in, grinning with those two sharp teeth. Can you handle being famous? Famous, Elias's voice cracked. Every newsfeed in the galaxy just saw a human nobody take down an assassin to save Kalia Vera. Zarin said, her eyes gleaming. Hope you're ready for your close-up, Earth boy. Elias looked down at Kalia, who despite her wounds was already interrogating security about the breach, her voice sharp and authoritative. Her daughters formed a protective circle, and this time they included Elias without hesitation, as if he'd always belonged. I think he said slowly, my definition of ready needs a serious overhaul. Welcome to the galaxy, Veka said, her tone carrying a rare hint of approval. It only gets weirder from here. As if to prove her point, the mathematical moderator's voice echoed through the chamber. Given the circumstances, the Concord moves to expedite the union ceremony. If both parties agree, the bonding will occur in 6 hours. Kalia pushed herself up, ignoring the medic's protests, her resolve unshaken. Agreed. All eyes turned to Elias. 6 hours. In 6 hours, he'd be married to an Andromedan general whose daughters could probably kill him with a flick of their wrists, a woman he'd known for less than 3 days, and whom he'd just saved from an assassination attempt likely tied to their union. His old life, the quiet apartment, the predictable bomb, the mundane human existence felt like a distant memory, someone else's story. Agreed, he heard himself say, his voice steady despite the chaos in his mind. The chamber erupted in a flurry of alien tongues, but Elias barely noticed too, consumed by wondering what impossibilities awaited next. Knowing his luck, it'd probably involve more explosions. Strangely, he was starting to be okay with that. The drop from orbit was a violent descent, the damaged shuttle screaming through the atmosphere of an unnamed planet, trailing fire and debris like a dying comet. Elias gripped his harness, knuckles white, as Kalia wrestled the controls, her injured arm trembling with each movement. Brace for impact, she shouted over the roar of failing engines. The wedding ceremony mere hours ago felt like a fever dream, a blur of alien rituals, shimmering beams of binding light, and vows spoken in languages older than Earth itself. They'd barely left the reception when a Vorath Nexus ambush struck their convoy. The astral elegy had taken critical damage, forcing them to abandon ship. The shuttle slammed into the planet's surface like a meteor, carving a glowing furrow through a forest of bioluminescent trees that shimmered like crystal. Metal shrieked, systems failed, and then silence. Elias's ears rang, his vision swimming. Through the cracked viewport, he glimpsed an alien sky painted in hues of purple and green, 2 moons staring down like unblinking eyes. Sound off, Kalia commanded, her voice rough but steady. Alive, Zarin called, followed by confirmations from her sisters. Define alive, Aralis groaned, her voice laced with pain. Everything hurts. Pain means you're breathing, Veka said, already checking her weapons with mechanical precision. Mother, your arm will heal, Kalia said, unbuckling herself and testing her weight, her face tight with effort. We need to move. The crash beacon will draw scavengers. They stepped into air thick with copper and ozone, the forest pulsing with eerie light, its crystalline trees reaching toward a turbulent sky. In the distance, Elias heard a sound, half wind, half something, alive and breathing. Where are we, he asked, helping Novexus pry supply crates from the wreckage. No, Kalia admitted, her eyes scanning the horizon. The nav computer was fried in the attack. We're somewhere in the abyssal zones based on stellar positions. Abyssal zones. Elias didn't like the sound of that. Why does that sound bad? Because things live here that shouldn't exist, Lysara said softly, her mercury hair glinting in the alien light. Old experiments failed colonies. Ships that entered and never returned. Wonderful honeymoon destination, Elias muttered, his sarcasm masking his unease. Zarin laughed undeterred. Look at it this way, it's memorable. A sound tore through the forest, a guttural blend of a roar and a machine's death throes. The bioluminescent trees flickered, their light shifting in warning patterns. Defensive positions, Kalia ordered, her voice snapping like a whip. Astera, what can we salvage? Emergency supplies. Some weapons, a basic shelter module? Astera replied, her star-freckled skin glowing brighter, a stress response Elias was learning to recognize. The comm system slag, no calling for help. Then we survive until rescue finds us, Kalia said, turning to Elias. Stay close. This planet, I've heard stories. They work swiftly, erecting a defensible camp against the shuttle's wreckage using the shelter module. As the alien night fell far too quickly, Elias noticed the forest come alive with sounds that defied description, each one tightening his nerves. First watch rotation, Kalia announced. Veka and Lysara then. You need to rest, Elias interrupted, surprising himself with his boldness. That arm needs time to heal. Kalia's golden eyes narrowed, a spark of defiance in them. I don't need, yes, you do. Elias cut in, holding his ground. You're injured, we're stranded, and you're no good to anyone if you collapse. General or not, you're Andromedan, and you have limits. The daughters watched their silence electric. Few dared challenge Vera, fewer still lived to tell the tale. After a long moment, she relented. Fine, but you stay inside the shelter. Deal. As they settled for the night, Elias found himself sharing a cramped space with Kalia, her daughters guarding the perimeter. The emergency lighting cast eerie shadows, each sound from the forest setting him on edge. You shouldn't have spoken to me like that, Kalia said quietly, her voice low. In front of my daughters. Would you have listened otherwise? A pause. No, then I did what needed doing. Elias said, checking the seal on a medical pack. That's what partners do, right? Look out for each other. Kalia was silent so long, he thought she drifted off. Then softly, I haven't had a partner in a very long time. The daughter's fathers, alliances, political necessities. Good men, some of them, but not. She trailed off, wincing as she shifted her injured arm. Not partners, Elias finished gently. I get it. Do you? Her eyes found his in the dim light. You gave up everything, your world, your life for a stranger. Why? Outside something howled long and mournful, far too close. Elias considered her question, his voice soft. Honestly, I'm still figuring that out. Maybe because for the first time I was needed for something that mattered. Or maybe he laughed softly, I just couldn't let KL have the last word. Hey, Elias. I set you up on a blind date with an alien general and her 6 daughters would have been impossible to top. Kalia made a sound that might have been amusement. Earth humor. My daughters seem to appreciate it. They're good kids. Warriors, but still kids in some ways. They've had to grow up fast. War does that, she said, her voice heavy. Tell me about their fathers. Kalia fell silent, but Elias waited, sensing the weight of her memories. Zaren's father was Altarian, she began. A pilot the best I've ever seen. He could make a freight hauler dance like a fighter. The Vorath destroyed his convoy while he was evacuating refugees. I'm sorry, Elias said quietly. Astera's father was a scientist. Kalia continued, her voice steady but laced with pain. He discovered 3 new elements before the Vorath deemed his research station a threat. Oralis's father was a diplomat, ironic given her bluntness. He was negotiating a peace treaty when they killed him. She recounted each daughter, each father, each loss. By the end, Elias understood Kalia hadn't just adopted war orphans. She'd taken in the children of men. She'd cared for, loved, all claimed by the same enemy. And now they're after you because of me, Elias said, his voice heavy with guilt. No. Kalia's good hand found his in the darkness, her touch warm and grounding. They're after us because we represent what they fear: unity without absorption, cooperation without losing ourselves. The Vorath believe all minds should be one. We prove that's not necessary, Kalia said, her voice steady, a quiet defiance against the Vorath's vision of a galaxy unified by force. A scream tore through the night, neither human nor animal, a sound so alien it set the shelter's walls trembling. What was that? Elias asked, his pulse spiking. Trouble, Kalia said, her hand snapping to her weapon. Before she could move, Veka's voice crackled over the comms, sharp and urgent. Movement in the trees, something big, multiple contacts. How multiple? Kalia demanded. All of them, Veka replied. It's all the movement. The attack came from every direction, a sudden, overwhelming assault. The bioluminescent trees seemed to come alive, peeling back to reveal creatures perfectly camouflaged, spider-like horrors, as if their creator had abandoned the design halfway and compensated with an obscene number of jagged teeth. Defensive fire, Kalia barked. Don't let them close. Plasma bolts lit up the alien night, casting the creature's grotesque forms into stark relief, dozens of them swarming with predatory intent. The creatures moved with unsettling intelligence, some drawing fire to shield others as they flanked with eerie coordination. Elias stationed himself at a firing port, squeezing off shots at anything with too many legs, his heart pounding as plasma bursts scorched the air. They're hurting us. Lysara realized, her voice cutting through the chaos. The ground beneath the shelter gave way, collapsing into a yawning void. They tumbled into darkness, the shelter module groaning as it slid down, what felt like a massive throat of stone and biomatter, its walls slick and pulsing. They came to rest in a vast cavern illuminated by phosphorescent growths that cast an eerie, sickly glow. The air was thick, humid, and carried the cloying scent of ancient decay, almost sweet in its intensity. "Everyone okay?" Kalia called her voice steady despite the ordeal. "Define." "Okay," the sisters chorused their voices, tinged with grim humor. "Still breathing counts," Elias added, earning a few chuckles despite the tension. As their eyes adjusted, the cavern unveiled its secrets. The walls were a grotesque fusion of technology and organic growth terminals pulsing like beating hearts, screens blinking like watchful eyes. It was artificial yet ancient beyond comprehension. "This is a lab." Novexus breathed, her voice hushed with awe. "Old Empire tech, maybe even primordial." "Primordial?" Elias asked, his neural interface straining to keep up. "The ones who came before everyone else," Zarin explained, her violet eyes scanning the chamber. "They vanished eons ago, but their relics keep turning up, usually in places marked forbidden for good reason." Kalia was already at a terminal, her fingers dancing over controls that seemed more grown than crafted, their surfaces slick and organic. "It's still active," she said, her tone grim. "Whatever they were doing here, they automated it before they left." "Or died." Veka added, her bluntness cutting through the tension. Screens flickered to life, displaying data in languages Elias's neural interface couldn't fully parse. The images, though, were unmistakable genetic structures torn apart and rebuilt, creatures engineered for purposes that defied sanity. "Bioweapons research," Kalia concluded, her voice heavy with realization. "They were trying to create perfect soldiers." "Looks like they succeeded," Aurelis said, pointing to a containment tank. Inside floated something that might once have been humanoid, now twisted with enhancements that were all wrong: limbs, too long, eyes, too many, a mockery of life. "We need to get out of here," Elias said, a chill creeping up his spine. "This place feels wrong," agreed Kalia, said, her hand moving to her weapon, but she froze as the spider things poured into the cavern through the breach they'd fallen through. Yet instead of attacking, they arranged themselves in a precise formation like an honor guard awaiting a commander. "That's not good," Zarin muttered, her sharp teeth glinting in the dim light. From the cavern's depths came footsteps, slow and deliberate, each one echoing with menace. What emerged into the phosphorescent glow was once a researcher, perhaps now warped by centuries of self-modification. It stood too tall, its joints bending at impossible angles, its face a flickering mask shifting between curiosity and ravenous hunger. "Visitors," it said, its voice like grinding glass, sharp and discordant. "How wonderful! It's been eons since we had proper test subjects." "We're not test subjects," Kalia stated, her voice unyielding as steel. "We're leaving." "Leaving?" The thing tilted its head at an angle that made Elias's stomach lurch. "But you've only just arrived, and you're so interesting. Andromedan military stock hybrid varietals," and its shifting eyes locked onto Elias, gleaming with unsettling fascination. "A pure strain human. How delightfully primitive." Primitive, Elias felt a spark of defiance despite the terror gripping him. "I'll show you, primitive." "Please do," the thing encouraged, its tone mockingly eager. "Baseline readings are vital for proper experimentation." The spider things closed in, herding them toward examination tables that looked anything but comfortable, their surfaces gleaming with a cold clinical menace. "Options?" Kalia asked her daughters quietly, her voice low to avoid the creature's hearing. "Fight and probably die, or play along and definitely die." Astera summarized, her star-freckled skin dimming with fear. "I vote for option 3, Elias said, his hand already reaching for the spider-like hacking module he'd used on the Vorath ship. "Which is?" Kalia asked, her eyes narrowing. "This." Before anyone could stop him, he slapped the device onto the nearest terminal. The effect was instantaneous. Screens flashed wildly, systems screamed in protest, and the ancient technology's harmony shattered. The researcher thing let out a wail that made everyone's teeth ache, a sound of pure anguished fury. "What did you do?" It demanded, its form flickering, as if struggling to hold itself together. "Introduced your perfect system to chaos Earth style," Elias said, a defiant grin breaking through his fear. "Random virus generators, logic bombs, and about 6 terabytes of cat videos. Good luck sorting that out." The lab descended into chaos, containment fields, flickering automated systems turning on each other. The spider things froze their purpose, scrambled unsure whether to guard or attack. "Run," Kalia commanded. They bolted, racing through corridors as the facility tore itself apart, explosions rumbling behind them. The researcher thing's howls echoed, but it was too consumed with salvaging its work to pursue. There, Lasara pointed to an emergency shaft, its jagged edges hinting at a natural cavern system. It should lead up. They climbed the sounds of destruction, reverberating below, dodging falling debris as the complex shuddered. Whatever Elias's virus was doing, it was thorough. Finally, impossibly, they emerged into daylight. Twin suns blazed overhead. Wait, hadn't there been moons? The forest looked different, less predatory, more alien in a serene, unsettling way. Time distortion. Kalia realized, her voice tinged with unease. We were down there longer than we thought, maybe days. The spiders aren't following Veka, reported, her scanner glowing faintly. They were tied to the lab's systems. So we're safe, Elias asked, hope flickering. A roar answered, rolling across the landscape, something massive moving through the trees, drawn by the explosions. Define safe, the group said in unison. All right, Kalia said, taking charge, her voice cutting through the tension. We find defensive positions, take stock of supplies, and figure out where we are. The Astral Elegy's emergency beacon should have activated. Search and rescue will come. How long? Elias asked. Days. Weeks maybe, Kalia replied. Could be never, Zarin added with her characteristic cheer. But hey, look on the bright side, we're getting quality family bonding time. This is not how I imagined my honeymoon, Elias muttered, his sarcasm barely masking his exhaustion. Really, Oralis asked, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with amusement. Because running from bioweapons and ancient horrors seems pretty on-brand for anyone marrying Mother. Even Kalia cracked a rare smile. She's got a point. They found a defensible cave system mercifully free of ancient tech, its walls solid rock. As they set up camp, Elias watched Kalia orchestrate her daughters with military precision, her injured arm barely slowing her. Regrets, she asked, catching his gaze. Elias thought of his old life, safe, predictable, empty. Then he looked at his new family weapons, ready, poised to face whatever this planet threw at them. Ask me when we survive. When Kalia corrected, stepping closer, her good hand finding his, her touch a quiet anchor. I have my daughters, my resources, and a husband who thinks cat videos are a valid combat strategy. It worked, didn't it? Elias said, a grin tugging at his lips. It did. She paused, her golden eyes softening. You saved us again. That's becoming a habit. Yeah, well, someone's got to keep you out of trouble. I'm a general with 6 combat-trained daughters and 30 years of military experience. And yet here we are stranded on Planet Nightmare because we got ambushed at our wedding reception, Elias countered. Our disaster, Kalia corrected, a faint smile breaking through. As night fell properly, the alien forest sang its deadly lullabies, predators lurking in the dark. But within their circle of light, 7 warriors and 1 Earthborn systems analyst held the line. You know, Elias said during his watch, Astera beside him, this is still better than my last relationship. Her laugh rang out bright as her star-freckled skin. You're gonna fit in just fine. The word hit him like a shocked dad. He was a father now to 6 alien warriors who could bench press him without breaking a sweat. Yeah, he said, finally a warmth settling in his chest. I think maybe I am. In the shelter, Kalia smiled in her sleep, a rare moment of peace. Tomorrow would bring new threats, but tonight her family was whole, even if it meant surviving a honeymoon on a planet hell-bent on their destruction. 3 days of scavenging yielded enough parts for Lasara to work her engineering magic. The makeshift transmitter resembled a collision of modern art and a junkyard, but it hummed with promise. This should punch through the atmospheric interference, she announced, tweaking the final connections. Basic distress signal, our coordinates, proof of life. Should, Elias asked, helping Novexus secure the power coupling. Well, there's a 30% chance it'll explode, Lasara admitted with a shrug. Pretty good odds, considering I built it from shuttle scraps and some conductive native fungus. I love your optimism, Zarin said from the cave entrance, her eyes scanning the dark. Very glass 70% full. Kalia inspected the transmitter with a professional eye, her arm healing swiftly. Andromedan physiology, she'd explaining though. Elias noticed she still favored it slightly. Do it, she decided. Even if hostiles pick it up, we're no worse off than now. Lasara activated the device. It sparked wine, then settled into a steady pulse, sending a beacon skyward, a fragile thread of hope on their 3rd night in this hostile world. Now we wait, Kalia said, her voice resolute. Maintain defensive positions. Kalia commanded, her voice steady despite the alien knight's ominous chorus. If anyone's listening, the response came faster than expected, the sky igniting with the telltale flares of ships dropping from hyperspace, not one or two, but dozens, their silhouettes blotting out the stars. That's no rescue party, Vega said grimly, her military precision unshaken. That's a fleet. The ships descended like a metallic storm, their angular predatory designs slicing through the atmosphere. Elias recognized them instantly, their forms echoing the horrors that had attacked Earth. Vorath, he breathed dread pooling in his gut. But different. Oralis's bioluminescent markings pulsed rapidly, a stress response. Look at the hull markings. Those aren't standard Nexus designs. Kalia's expression hardened, her golden eyes narrowing. Separatists, a splinter faction that thinks the main Nexus is too soft. Too soft, Elias squeaked, his voice betraying his panic. The regular Vorath want to absorb all sentient life. What does too extreme even look like? The answer came in the form of the landing parties. The beings that emerged were Vorath, but grotesquely altered where the Nexus was unified. In its unsettling uniformity, these separatists were abominations, their bodies sprouting extra limbs, weapons grafted into flesh armor, growing like a living disease. Battle modifications. Astera whispered, her star-freckled skin dimming with fear. They've turned themselves into living weapons. Fall back to the secondary position. Kalia ordered, her voice a blade of authority. We can't fight a fleet. They retreated deeper into the cave system they'd mapped over days, navigating the twisting tunnels with practiced urgency, the sounds of pursuit echoing behind them. The separatists spread out with terrifying efficiency, some tracking on foot, while others deployed search drones, mechanical wasps that buzzed with lethal intent. Why aren't they just bombing us? Elias asked, his breath ragged as they moved. They want us alive, Kalia replied, her tone grim. A human Andromedan marriage. We're either valuable hostages or test subjects for their modifications. I really need to stop asking questions I don't want answered, Elias muttered. They reached a cavern they'd prepped as a fallback, multiple exits, clear sight lines, enough cover for a last stand. But against a fleet options, Kalia asked her daughters, her voice steady despite the odds. Fight and die heroically. Zarin suggested, her grin defiant. Hide and hope they get bored. Novexus countered, her sing-song voice laced with sarcasm. Actually, Elias said, studying his salvaged tablet, its screen glowing faintly. I might have a third option. Remember that lab we trashed? The virus I uploaded didn't just wreck their systems. It transmitted everything to my device first. Kalia leaned in, her eyes sharp. What kind of everything? Schematics, research data, and Elias pulled up a file, his heart racing. Security codes for something called the Omega Protocol. Ring any bells? The sisters exchanged wary glances. Veka spoke, her voice low. Primordial doomsday weapons. Theoretical only. No one's ever found a functional one. Well, according to this, there's one 6 kilometers north, Elias said. Still powered, still waiting for activation. That's insane, Oralis said, her bioluminescent markings flaring. Even if it works, primordial weapons are notoriously indiscriminate. It could kill us too. As opposed to the definitely going to kill us Vorath fleet, Elias countered, his voice steadier than he felt. Explosions echoed through the caves, the separatists methodically collapsing tunnels to flush them out. They're hurting us again, Lysara realized, her mercury hair glinting with agitation. Kalia made her decision, her tone resolute. We go for the weapon. Fighting retreat. Keep them focused on us. She looked at Elias. You're sure about those codes? 60% sure, he admitted. Better than our usual odds, Zarin said brightly. I'm in. They moved out using the cave system's twist to their advantage. The daughters fell into practice formations, Kalia and Veka on point Astera, and Novexus covering the rear, Oralis and Zarian on the flanks. Elias found himself in the protected center, tablet in one hand, plasma caster in the other. His nerves taut as a wire. The first contact came at a tunnel junction, modified Vorath, moving with unnatural speed, their weapons growing from their arms like organic horrors. Kalia and Veka met them head-on, their synchronized combat, turning the narrow space into a killing field, plasma bolts carving through flesh and metal. Move, Kalia shouted as more separatists poured in. They burst from the caves into alien daylight, the forest now a war zone, ships hovering overhead, ground forces spreading out the air, vibrating with hostile intent. This way, Elias led them north, following the stolen coordinates' energy blasts, turning trees to glass and soil to slag behind them. A separatist squad cut them off their modified bodies, moving with eerie coordination. The daughters responded as one, Astera laying down covering fire, while Zarin and Oralis flanked their movements a deadly ballet. In the chaos, Elias saw Kalia take a hit, her armor absorbing most of the blast, but not all. A burn seared along her ribs. "I'm fine," she gasped, but Elias could see the pain in her eyes. "No, you're not." He moved to support her, surprised when she leaned into him, accepting his help. How much further there, Lasara pointed. Ahead, nearly invisible among the bioluminescent trees, stood a structure that defied perception. Ancient yet timeless, its architecture bending the rules of reality. "That's it," Novexus asked, her voice tinged with awe. "Looks like modern art had a baby with a migraine." "Primordial aesthetic," Veka confirmed. "Functional incomprehensibility." More separatists closed in, having deduced their destination, their attacks intensifying. The daughters burned through power cells at an alarming rate. "Inside," Kalia commanded. The structure's entrance dilated at their approach, as if sensing their presence or perhaps the codes. The interior was even more disorienting, its surfaces shimmering with not quite solid textures, angles adding up to impossible sums. There, Elias spotted the control interface, a radiant construct resembling a flower woven from light and mathematics. He pressed his hand to it, uploading the codes. The structure shuddered, awakening from eons of slumber. Displays materialized from thin air, projecting data that strained his neural interface to the breaking point. A voice spoke, resonating in every language, simultaneously warning, "Omega protocol requires authorization. Present genetic key." Genetic key. Elias looked at the others, panic rising. What genetic key? Kalia understood first, her golden eyes sharp. The primordials seeded many species. They'd require a descendant to activate their weapons. She glanced at her daughters. "One of us might." "All of us," Astera interrupted, her star-freckled skin glowing with excitement as she studied the displays. "It demands genetic diversity. Multiple species working together, that's the key." "Places everyone," Kalia ordered. They arranged themselves around the interface, 7 different species plus 1 Earth human. As their hands touched the surface, the structure came fully alive. Authorization recognized. Hybrid collective detected. Omega protocol activated. The ground trembled, a low hum rising. Outside, the separatist Varath reached the structure, their weapons firing uselessly against walls that existed in dimensions beyond their reach. "What exactly does this protocol do?" Elias asked, his voice tight with nerves. The answer came as the structure transformed its walls, turning transparent to reveal the weapon's true nature, not a bomb or gun, but something elegant and terrifying. "It's a reality anchor," Kalia breathed, her voice awed. "It forces everything in range to exist in baseline reality, only no hyperspace, no dimensional shields, no biomodifications, relying on exotic physics." Veka's eyes widened. "It levels the playing field completely." The weapon pulsed, a wave of pure reality rippling outward. The separatist Vorath screamed as their modifications failed, their bodies rejecting the unnatural additions. Ships plummeted from the sky, their drives silenced. In seconds, a technologically superior force became mortal vulnerable. "Now we fight," Kalia said with savage satisfaction. They erupted from the structure, catching the disoriented separatists off guard. Without their enhancements, the Vorath were still deadly, but no longer invincible. The battle was brutal, but swift, Kalia's daughters proving why they were elite warriors, even without technological edges. Elias found himself back-to-back with Zarin, covering each other as they fought through separatists, struggling to regroup. "Not bad for a computer guy," she shouted, decapitating a creature with too many eyes, its ichor splattering the ground. "I'm learning," Elias replied, shooting a Vorath reaching for a fallen weapon. "Also, I think I'm going to need therapy after this." "Get in line," Zarin laughed. "Mother's been promising to pay for ours for years." The tide turned. The separatists retreated to ships that wouldn't fly, their communications dead. In desperation, their leader, a Vorath, so modified it was barely recognizable, approached under a makeshift white flag, a piece of hull plating glowing with the bioluminescent surrender patterns. "You have won this engagement," it said, its voice a discordant harmony. But you cannot hold this position forever. The weapon will burn out, reality will reassert, and we will return. Maybe Kalia acknowledged standing tall despite her injuries every inch the general. But by then the interstellar conquered will know what you've done attacking as a diplomatic vessel pursuing us here. You violated every treaty. Treaties are for the weak, the separatist leader spat. The galaxy needs unification, not diversity. Funny, Elias said, stepping forward, his voice steady despite the adrenaline. That's what you said about Earth. But here's the thing, diversity just kicked your unified ass. 7 different species and 1 random human solved a puzzle your collective couldn't crack. You were lucky, the leader hissed. No, Kalia corrected, her golden eyes blazing. We were family. That's something your kind will never understand. The separatists withdrew, limping back to their crippled ships, the immediate threat fading, but the war far from over. As they watched the retreat, the Omega weapon powered down its ancient systems, exhausted, the structure fading back into its extra-dimensional origins. So Aralis said into the heavy silence, anyone else notice we basically won by the power of friendship and diversity? Don't! Veka warned her, tone sharp. Don't make it weird. Too late, Novexus laughed, her sing-song voice bright. We're a walking after-school special. Today on Galactic Families, the power of love defeats space fascists. Even Kalia cracked a smile, then swayed, her injuries and exhaustion catching up. Elias caught her noting how naturally she leaned into him now. We need shelter, he said, his voice firm. Treat injuries, rest. Those separatists will be back with friends. Listen to the husband Zarin teased, already taking charge. They found a new cave system, mercifully free of ancient labs or cosmic weapons. As Aster attended to Kalia's wounds, Elias set up defenses with depleted power cells and salvaged gear. The weapon's activation should have lit up every sensor in the sector, Lasara said hopefully. Someone's bound to investigate. The question is, who gets here first, Veka pointed out. Concord forces more separatists as regular Vorath, or pirates, Novexus added with a grin. Or, Kalia interrupted, her voice cutting through. We stop borrowing trouble and focus on what we can control. Shifts of 2 4-hour rotations. Elias, you're with me for first watch. The daughters exchanged knowing looks, but said nothing, settling into rest. Alone at the cave entrance, Elias and Kalia sat in companionable silence, the alien stars wheeling overhead in a celestial dance unfamiliar to Earth's skies. Kalia had shed her battle-damaged armor for a sleek undersuit, its simplicity making her seem both more approachable and paradoxically more dangerous, like a blade stripped of its sheath. You did well today, she said finally, her voice soft but carrying the weight of her approval. The weapon, the battle, you've adapted faster than most trained soldiers would. Elias glanced toward where her daughters rested, their silhouettes barely visible in the dim light. I had good teachers, he said, a faint smile tugging at his lips. They're amazing, you know, each one of them. They are, Kalia replied, pride warming her tone. They've become more than I ever dreamed, strong, capable, yet still. She searched for words, her golden eyes distant, still able to laugh to hope. I feared the war would strip that from them. You gave them something to fight for beyond survival. Each other. You, Elias said, pausing as his voice softened. Us now, I guess. Kalia turned to him, her golden eyes unreadable in the starlight, yet searching. You've really accepted this, haven't you? This impossible situation, this instant family, this life of unrelenting danger? Honestly, Elias laughed softly, the sound tinged with wonder. I accepted it the moment Zarin called me dad. My old life feels like a dream, now safe, predictable, empty. This running from bioweapons, fighting space fascists, being married to the most dangerous woman in 3 galaxies, this feels real. Even though we barely know each other, Kalia's voice was quiet, almost vulnerable. Elias met her gaze unflinching. I know enough. I know you die for your daughters. I know you carry the weight of every soldier you have lost. I know you are terrified of letting anyone close because everyone you've cared about has been taken from you. Kalia's breath caught a flicker of raw emotion crossing her face. I also know, Elias continued, his voice steady, that when you truly smile, not the diplomatic mask or the commander's expression, but really smile, your daughters light up like suns. I know you hum old Andromedan war songs when you think no one's listening. And I know you took a chance on a nobody from Earth because you believed it was right. You're not a nobody, Kalia said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Not anymore. No. Elias agreed, a warmth settling in his chest. Now I'm your husband, their stepfather, part of this insane, wonderful, terrifying family. He reached out, taking her hand gently, his touch cautious but sure. I know we did this backwards, marriage first, getting to know each other, after the media circus, but I want you to know I'm all in. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Kalia looked at their joined hands, her expression softening in a way that would have stunned her daughters. Together, she repeated the word heavy with meaning. It's been so long since I've had someone to share the burden with. We'll get used to it. I'm stubborn that way. I noticed, she said, squeezing his hand, a faint smile breaking through. When you argued with me about resting, when you refused to leave me during the Concord attack, when you dove into an unknown weapons system without hesitation. In my defense, Elias said, grinning, that last one was more stupidity than stubbornness. Sometimes they're the same thing. She leaned against him slightly, a rare concession to exhaustion and trust. Elias, I need you to know, if something happens to me, the girls, nothing's going to happen to you. He interrupted, his voice firm. Not on my watch. I've gotten pretty good at this saving each other thing. You have, she acknowledged, her eyes warm. But before she could say more, an alert from Lacera's transmitter cut through the silence, its hum sharp and insistent. Wake the others, Kalia commanded, her soldier's edge snapping back into place. But as the ships descended, Elias felt a surge of relief wash over him. These weren't the jagged nightmares of Varath design. They were sleek, elegant vessels bearing the silver markings of the Andromedan vanguard. Rescue, he breathed, hope flickering. Maybe, Kalia said, but a smile tugged at her lips. Veka, signal our position. The lead ship touched down, disgorging armored figures. At their head stood a tall Andromedan, his silver rank insignia gleaming riven core, Kalia's command staff, his expression one of profound relief. General Vara, he saluted, his voice crisp. Captain Core, we've been searching for 3 days. When the Omega activation registered, he shook his head, a wry grin breaking through. Ma'am, with respect, only you could turn a honeymoon into a first contact incident with separatist forces. Good to see you too, Kalia said dryly. Status report. The separatist attack has galvanized the interstellar concord. A full military response is authorized. The main Varath nexus has denounced the splinter group offering aid. His eyes flicked to Elias. Your husband's actions at the Concord made quite an impression. Earth's status has been fast-tracked. My actions, Elias blinked, incredulous. I just gave a speech. You defended Earth with logic and passion. Kor corrected. Then saved General Vara from assassination. Then survived a separatist fleet. The media is calling you the human hero. A bit sensationalist, but effective for diplomacy. Media, Elias's voice cracked, panic rising. There's media coverage extensive, Kalia confirmed, a hint of sympathy in her tone. Welcome to fame, husband. As they boarded the rescue ships, her daughters chattering excitedly about hot showers and real food, Elias glanced back at the hostile planet that had tried so hard to kill them. Regrets, Kalia asked, echoing her earlier question. No, Elias said firmly, then grinned. Well, maybe one. Which is, we never got to consummate the marriage properly. Kalia's laugh, rare and genuine, echoed through the ship, a sound that warmed him to his core. There'll be time, she said, pulling him close as the ship lifted off. After all, we have the rest of our lives, however long that is, Elias teased. With our track record, I give us at least a week before the next crisis. Kalia said, her eyes sparkling. You're an optimist, Elias quipped. I'm a realist, she countered, glancing at her daughters already plotting their next adventure. But I'm starting to think our odds are improving. As the planet shrank below, Elias silently agreed. They'd survive bioweapons, separatists, and ancient technology, forging a family in the crucible of crisis. Whatever the galaxy threw at them next, they'd face it together, 8 unlikely souls, the most improbable family in known space. The grand assembly hall of the interstellar Concord gleamed anew, its crystalline walls reinforced with phase shift barriers and reality anchors since the assassination attempt. Elias stood at the witness podium, clad in a formal suit that blended Earth fashion with Andromedan military elegance, a wedding gift from Astera, miraculously intact after their honeymoon ordeal. State your name for the record, the arbiter requested, its crystalline form, chiming with each word, a resonant whose presence hummed with harmonic authority. Elias Varn, citizen of Earth, husband to General Kalia Vara of the Andromedan Vanguard, he declared. The gallery buzzed the human who'd survived. Separatist Vorath activated a primordial weapon and married into one of the galaxy's most formidable families, now a galactic celebrity. Elias tried to ignore the dozens of recording devices trained on him. Mr. Varn, the prosecutor, began as Zentauran with too many arms and an attitude to match its facial tentacles, twitching with disdain. You claim the separatist attack was unprovoked, yet records show you deliberately transmitted your location while knowing hostile forces were in the sector. We transmitted a distress signal, Elias clarified, his voice steady, after being shot down by those same hostiles. Are you suggesting we should have quietly died instead? Ripples of amusement spread through the gallery, the Zentauran's tentacles darkening with irritation. You then accessed and activated a primordial weapon, potentially destabilizing the entire sector, to defend ourselves against a fleet trying to kill us. Yes, Elias said, meeting the prosecutor's multiple eyes unflinchingly. The alternative was capture and modification by beings who think grafting weapons into living flesh is a good idea. Objection, came a harmonized voice. The Vorath Nexus representative, pointedly not a separatist, rose, its presence chilling. The mainline Nexus does not endorse such modifications. Noted, the arbiter chimed. Continue. The questioning dragged on for hours, dissecting every moment of their ordeal. Through it all, Elias could see Kalia. In the observer section, her daughters arrayed around her like an honor guard. She gave him a subtle nod of encouragement when the prosecutor grew particularly aggressive. Let's discuss your rapid integration into galactic society, the Zentauran said, shifting tactics. Less than a week from first contact to marriage. Rather convenient, wouldn't you say? Convenient, Elias laughed, the sound sharp with disbelief. I've been shot at crash-landed, hunted by bioweapons, and nearly absorbed by a hive mind. If that's convenience, I'd hate to see complicated. Yet you gained citizenship in one of the galaxy's most powerful military organizations, the prosecutor pressed. I gained a family, Elias corrected, his voice firm. The citizenship was just paperwork. Paperwork that grants Earth significant protection, the Zentauran said smoothly. Yes, and Elias leaned forward, his Earthborn stubbornness flaring. Are you suggesting Earth doesn't deserve protection? That we should have waited politely for full membership? Oh, while hostiles decided our fate, I'm suggesting, the prosecutor said, its tone slick, that this affair seems orchestrated. A human nobody. Objection. Kalia's voice cut through the hall like a plasma blade, her golden eyes blazing as she rose. The witness's prior status is irrelevant to these proceedings. General Vera, the arbiter, warned, its crystalline form pulsing. You are here as an observer only. Then I request formal recognition to speak as a witness to character, Kalia said, her voice unwavering. The hall stirred. Kalia Vera rarely made such requests, and when she did, the galaxy listened. Granted, the arbiter chimed. Take the secondary podium. Kalia moved with her signature liquid grace, though Elias caught the faint tension in her shoulders. Public emotional displays were not her forte. The prosecutor questions my husband's rapid integration. She began, her voice carrying effortlessly across the chamber. He calls him a nobody, implies he's an opportunist. Let me tell you what I've seen. She turned to the gallery, and Elias saw the general who'd won countless battles, her presence commanding. Elias Varn, when faced with a Vorath attack at our first meeting, didn't run, he stayed. When assassins targeted me, he acted without regard for his own safety. When we crashed on a hostile world, didn't falter or panic, he adapted. Her voice warmed, a rare softness breaking through. He stood between my daughters and danger. He dove into unknown primordial technology to save us all. He faced a separatist fleet with nothing but determination and what he calls stupid Earth stubbornness. Zarin made a sound that might have been a suppressed cheer. The prosecutor asked why I married him so quickly. Kalia continued, her eyes finding Elias. Because in 1 week he showed more courage, loyalty, and integrity than beings I've known for decades. Because my daughters, who trust no one, easily accepted him instantly. Because when the galaxy showed him its worst, he responded with his best. She turned to the prosecutor, her gaze unyielding. Earth may be new to the galactic stage, but if Elias Varn represents humanity's potential, the interstellar Concord would be fools to reject them. The hall erupted in discussion, a cacophony of alien tongues. Kalia returned to her seat amid the chaos, her daughters greeting her with proud smiles. Any further questions, the arbiter asked the prosecutor. The Zentauran seemed to deflate, its tentacles drooping. Know your resonance. Then we call the next witness, the arbiter declared. Zarin Vera. Elias watched awestruck as each of Kalia's daughters took the stand. Zarin spoke of his bravery with her trademark humor, her violet eyes sparkling. Astera detailed his quick thinking with the primordial weapon, her star-freckled skin glowing with conviction. Lysara explained the technical genius of wielding Earth chaos against ordered systems, her mercury hair glinting. Auralis, Novexus, and even the stoic Veka painted a vivid picture of a man who'd earned their respect and affection in record time. He's not our stepfather, Veka concluded, her voice firm and resolute. He's our father. Biology means nothing when someone proves themselves through action. Regardless of personal character, the Zentaran prosecutor pressed its tentacles, twitching with smug precision. This union was politically motivated, and all marriages between worlds are political. Kalia interrupted from the gallery, her voice a blade of conviction slicing through the hall. The question is whether they serve a greater purpose, which is the prosecutor challenged. Unity through diversity, strength through connection. Kalia rose again, her starlight gown shimmering with quiet defiance. My husband asked why I chose him. The truth, when I looked at Earth chaotic, divided, struggling, I saw potential. When I looked at him, I saw someone who embodied that potential. She paused, and for the first time in public, Elias saw vulnerability flicker across her golden eyes, a raw glimpse of the woman beneath the general. I've lost 7 partners to this war. Good beings, all of them. I swore I'd never risk that pain again. But then this impossible human crashed into my life and taught me something. The greatest risk isn't loving and losing, she continued, her voice softening. It's never loving at all. The hall fell silent, the weight of her words holding every delegate in thrall. So yes, this union serves political ends. It protects Earth, strengthens alliances, frustrates our enemies. But it's also real. As real as the family we've built, the peas we've forged, the future we're fighting for. She sat, and Elias could have sworn he saw tears glisten in Zarin's violet eyes. Even Veka, ever stoic, looked moved. The arbiter's crystalline form pulsed as it called for judgment. The vote was swift, decisive. The separatist attack condemned Earth's protective status, confirmed their union, recognized as legitimate in every way that mattered. As the assembly dispersed, Elias found himself enveloped by his new family, their presence a shield against the galaxy's chaos. Kalia approached more slowly, uncertainty flickering in her eyes, a rare crack in her armor. That was quite a speech, Elias said softly, his voice warm with admiration. I meant every word. I know. He pulled her close, heedless of the lingering crowd, his hands gentle but sure. I love you too, by the way, in case that wasn't clear. Her kiss was answer enough, a fleeting electric moment, her lips warm and firm against his, carrying the weight of shared battles and unspoken promises. It sparked cheers from their daughters and scattered applause from the gallery. Public displays of affection, Veka muttered, her tone dry, but her eyes betraying amusement. We're never living this down. Good Zarin grinned, her sharp teeth glinting. Mom needs more practice being emotional. It's healthy. Later aboard the private shuttle to the astral elegy, Elias found himself at the heart of a family celebration. The daughters produced a bottle of what they swore was champagne, though its suspiciously purple hue suggested otherwise. Their stories grew wilder with each retelling, laughter filling the cabin. So then Dad Oralis said, the title still sending a jolt through Elias, looks this ancient nightmare AI in the face and says, have you tried turning it off and on again? That's not what happened, Elias protested through the laughter, his face flushed. It's better storytelling. Novexus insisted, her sing-song voice bright. Never let truth get in the way of a good narrative. Kalia leaned against him, more relaxed than he'd ever seen her, her presence a quiet anchor. Welcome to military families, she said, her voice soft. The stories grow bigger every time. By next year, I'll have defeated the separatists single-handed, Elias teased. While juggling, Astera added, her star-freckled skin glowing with mischief. Don't forget the juggling. A communication chime cut through the revelry. Riven Core appeared on the shuttle's main screen, his expression grave. General, apologies for the interruption. We've received intelligence about separatist movements near the Kefira colonies. High Command requests your tactical assessment. Kalia straightened the general, reasserting herself with a snap. I'll send the data packet. I'll review en route. There's more, ma'am. Core said, his eyes shifting to Elias. The Interstellar Concord has approved a joint task force to counter the separatist threat. They're requesting Earth's participation specifically. They want Mr. Varn as liaison. Meanwhile, Elias's voice cracked, disbelief coloring his tone. I fixed computers? You survived a separatist fleet and activated a primordial weapon. Kor corrected his tone, matter of fact. In the Concord's eyes, that makes you an expert. When do they need an answer? Kalia asked, her voice steady. 48 hours, ma'am. The screen went dark, leaving them in thoughtful silence. You don't have to accept, Kalia said finally, her hand resting on his. You've done enough. More than enough. Elias looked around at his family, brilliant, dangerous, wonderful, and thought of Earth still stumbling into a hostile galaxy. He remembered the separatist leader's words about unification through force. Yes, I do, he said quietly. This is bigger than us. If I can help stop them. Veka corrected, her military precision, softened by a rare warmth. If we can stop them. You don't think we're letting you face this alone, do you? Absolutely not, Zarin agreed, her grin mischievous. Someone's got to keep you from solving every problem with cat videos. It worked once. Elias shot back a smirk, tugging at his lips. Statistical anomaly, Lasara said, her mercury hair glinting as she laughed. But I appreciate the chaos theory application. Kalia's hand found his, her grip steady. You're sure? No, Elias admitted, his voice honest. I'm terrified, but I'm also sure I'm where I need to be, with who I need to be with. Who Morales corrected automatically, then yelped as Novexus elbowed her. Let them have their moment. As the shuttle neared the astral elegy, Elias marveled at how much had changed. A week ago, he'd been a nobody, a systems analyst with a dull job and a predictable life. Now he was husband to one of the galaxy's greatest military leaders, stepfather to 6 extraordinary warriors, and apparently Earth's liaison in an interstellar conflict. Regrets? Kalia asked one last time, her golden eyes searching his. Never, Elias said firmly, then grinned. Although, what you all realize, this means more family dinners interrupted by assassination attempts, right? Tradition, the daughters chorused, their voices a harmonious tease. Kalia's laugh filled the shuttle, a rare melodic sound. At least life will never be boring. With this family, Elias grinned. I'm counting on it. The astral elegy loomed in the viewport, its sleek lines promising new adventures and certain danger. But Elias felt no fear, only resolve, surrounded by his impossible family. Whatever came next, separatist politics, or just surviving game night with 6 fiercely competitive sisters, they'd face it together. So Zarin said as they prepared to dock, who wants to bet on how long before the next crisis? 3 days, Astera offered. One day, Novexus countered. You're both optimists, Veka stated, her tone dry. I give it 6 hours, Kalia, Elias asked, turning to her. She smiled, that rare, genuine expression that transformed her face. Does it matter? We'll handle it. We always do. Together, Elias agreed. As they entered the ship that had become a bind, home alarms already sounded, heralding a new emergency. Elias couldn't help but laugh. He'd wanted his life to matter, to make a difference. Be careful what you wish for. All hands battle stations, Kalia commanded, already moving, her voice sharp with authority. Separatist scouts detected at the system edge. Looks like Veka wins the bet. Called it, Veka said smugly. Less gloating, more moving, Kalia ordered, but her smile lingered. Elias checked his weapon, the action now second nature, and fell in with his family. 6 daughters, 1 general, and a systems analyst from Earth against the galaxy. The odds were definitely in their favor. Hey, Elias called to Kalia as they headed for the bridge. I just realized something. What's that? We never did get that quiet honeymoon. Her laugh echoed through the quarters, bright and unguarded. Next time, husband. Next time. Promise, would you believe me if I did? Probably not, smart man, she said, stealing a quick kiss before the bridge doors slid open, her lips brushing his with a warmth that lingered. That's why I married you. As they took their positions, Kalia at the helm, her daughters at their stations, Elias at the tactical display he was still learning, he reflected on the journey from a blind date to a galactic incident in record time. Contact in 60 seconds, Lasara reported. All weapons hot, Veka confirmed. Dad, Zarin called, her voice teasing. Try not to volunteer for any suicide missions this time. No promises, Elias replied, earning a fond eye roll from Kalia. The separatist scouts appeared on the view screen, and battle was joined. But Elias felt no fear, only determination. This was his family, his place, his purpose. Sometimes a blind date could change the universe. And sometimes, against all odds and logic, it could create something worth fighting for, worth living for, worth believing in a family forged in chaos, tempered by trial and bound by choice. The Varn Vera clan against the galaxy. Elias grinned as he worked his station, coordinating with his daughters to face the latest threat. The galaxy didn't stand a chance.